After being closed for about 6 months and recently opened for exit classes, it is back to school for other primary and secondary school students. State governments have released guidelines for the resumption of public and private schools with strong recommendations for safety precautions to be adhered to. This is to curtail the further spread of COVID-19 cases in Nigeria, as schools in many states reopened today. Our TVC News Ogun State Correspondent Kazeem Olowe joins me in the studio to talk more on this. Kazeem, it's good to have you in the studio.
Same here.
Now, talk to us. You have been around Ogun State monitoring the level of compliance to the guidelines, especially the COVID-19 guidelines. Talk to us what you have observed.
Well, on the part of the students, they were anxious, they were happy that after staying at home for months, they have the opportunity of returning to school. But, you know, in Ogun State, the state government gave guidelines that people, before students resume in school, they have to observe certain guidelines. Part of it is that not all the students or pupils in primary school will resume at a time in order to give opportunity of social distancing in classrooms. And how do they map out the strategy? This allows pupils in primary 1 to 3 to go to school between the hours of 8 a.m. and 11 a.m. And then from noon to 3 p.m., pupils from primary 3 to 6 will go. And that applies to secondary school too, GSS 1 to GSS 3 between 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. And then SS 1 to SS 3, that will be between the hours of noon and then 3 p.m. For tertiary institutions and vocational institutions, they are allowed to resume at 8 a.m. and close by 2 p.m. But today, what we observed was that some of these students actually came to school. Right. You know, some of them forgot the guidelines in place. Some of them say they never even know that there was, guidelines in place. And that's that also speaks volume, because at a point in time, some schools, they had to return students without face mask.
Asking them to go back home.
Asking them to go back home because they came without nose mask and they want to enter the school premises. Right. So there were health officials around. They have to observe, check the temperature, and then observe they are putting on the face mask. But some, and it got to a point that we now have many of them around the entrance of the school. And this push a kind of a blame on the parent, because these guidelines, before the state government arrived at that point, they actually called a meeting.
But that would pose the question of how aware was the level of awareness of the people of the state with regards to the issue of COVID-19 and the safety protocols.
Well, you may say that, but as a correspondent, I know that the state has actually invited the leaders of PTA, the Parent Teachers Association, with the officials of the ministry. They had meetings, and of course, they came up with guidelines of how to come about, how to have safe reopening of schools. Right. But in a situation where you have students, although some of them, majority of them are not ready to speak on camera, but when we ask them that, why did you come to school without putting on a face mask? Some of them say, I left it at home. Some of them say, and that's another challenge for parents. Before you allow your children to leave home to a particular place, high density, high populated area, before they move into try to check them, ask questions, where is your face mask?
But the schools were able to provide every other necessary thing in place in terms of water. There was running water. Talk about the infrared thermometer and the hand sanitizers. Were those available? In
school monitors, sincerely, they put those things in place. In schools monitored in Abeokuta earlier today.
All right, Kazeem Olowe, our correspondent from Ogun State, thank you for being in the studio with us.
Same here.